What's up everyone, welcome back to Mark on Chain. My name is Mark and today I'm going to show you guys how you can find the next OK bears early and why that is so important. Obviously, so you can get yourself your whitelist spot early. I'm going to walk through OK bears, what they did, how they did it, and why they did the different things. We're going to show you some other similar projects which are using the same brand narrative, marketing strategy, and all those different types of things, right? So I'm going to jump into my computer, we're going to walk through the different things. Grab yourself your notepad, write some notes, because then you can go ahead and do the same research on Twitter and in the NFT space so you can get into projects early before everyone else. So to be able to find the next OK bears, you obviously want to know what did they do right and why did they blow up, right? There's many different factors to it. Obviously, it's never just one thing. It's sort of a cohesiveness, a collectiveness of all the parameters that they did, right? But obviously, what they did really well and was one of the pioneers for it, they did something quite new compared to a lot of other projects, and they went with a brand first narrative. Actually, sort of coming over from an ETH perspective where there's not as much focus on utilities, there's more focus on art and the branding and the marketing narrative and the branded assets that are being used, right? So what did they do, OK bears? They came over sort of with like a basic art. You don't have to look for basic art as well, but you sort of rather that was just a part of it. It was clean, it was easy to sort of understand and sort of distinguish the difference in the different in the different trades and all those different types of things. But you don't have to find popular simple art, right? But what you can do is you can look for similarities now that OK bears had and the way that they did it, and look for other projects which are using the same trends in terms of art. There's many other projects which are utilizing Japanese art, acid art, somebody smoking a blunt, these different types of things, apes, right? Just like tripping apes and all these other different types of projects, right? But what OK bears did really well was their branded assets and their branding, right? That's really it, and that's what's working really well in the space right now when you do branded assets. So what is a branded asset? I don't even know it's a term, this is what I call it. A branded asset, or graphical element, or it's basically your art in a setting, in an environment, sort of visualization of the world that your art, your characters are living in. Just like they did right here on May 10th, shifting the culture. There was obviously when they had 1 million in volume, but rather than saying, hey, we got 1 million in volume on Magic Eden, they created a branded asset around the statement that they wanted to post on Twitter. That's the part of the branding that they're doing. That's why they're still doing so well. Obviously, this also brought a huge amount of community engagement, and they have a tremendous community. I do own some OK bears myself, and I think it's great what they're doing, and they obviously boosted Solana Spring, Solana Summer, and all those different types of things. But if we scroll down to before that they minted, right? And I talk a lot about this in my other videos because that's the meta right now. OK bears sort of push that meta and that narrative as well. And it is the way that you do your branding, right? You want to have graphical elements and branded assets around your art. That's really what people are looking for, and that's the type of posts and projects which are blowing up. You can see like this one, right? They have a branded asset that is showing the mint for the OK bears, right? They have their garden here, right? With flickering lights. It shows when they're minting, rather than just saying when they're minting. They created a branded asset around it, and they did a lot of scarce whitelist giveaways with big reputable people in the space. If we scroll to the top, the same goes for their banner, right? It shows the garden, the park, where the OK bears are living in, almost like a parallel world to Central Park, NYC, where the OK bears are living, which ties into the buildings that they're showing here for their 1 million sales volume announcement, right? You get the gist, right? Branded asset, great branding, and they sort of obviously took the whole setup in terms of you don't necessarily have to tell all the utilities or focus on the utilities that you're bringing. You rather want to showcase great branding because then people get behind you. It's the same in the Web 2 space. I talked about this in my other video about great goats, I think. But it's not necessarily that your skincare product in the Web 2 space is better than all the other skincare products. There might actually be the same ingredients, but what differentiates you is how you do your branding, your brand narrative, your marketing message, your Instagram, your Twitter, your email marketing, your graphical elements, how you make your newsletters, how your website looks, how you create a loyalty program, how you really engage with your community, and how that ties in to your brand and marketing narrative. And that's what OK Bears did really well. The same goes for their website, right? They did look a bit like a Suki, but obviously they just looked at what worked really well, and Ethan thought, hey, if we do something and then do it with a Solana sort of sprinkle, then it's gonna do really well. Guess what? It fucking sold out instantly on Magic Eden, right? They did have a lot of thought, and people thought that they were going to rock, since a lot of projects previously with very few amount of information regarding their utilities, but just very clean, high quality art has rocked. But obviously all of the thought were turned down to instant hype, because 5 hours or 8 hours before that they were supposed to mint, they announced that they were now gonna do the mint on Magic Eden, right? Which means since Magic Eden has everything in escrow and everything needs to be doxed, they couldn't mint. So all of the thought and everybody's eyes were on OK Bears. Either they're gonna do really well, they're gonna rock instantly, right? A lot of people were talking about that they were gonna rock, because it just seems like they were getting too much attention and everything looked sort of like previous things which had rocked, right? So all of that attention flipped in an instant from people thinking that they might rock, or that they might scam, to that they couldn't, and then all of those people obviously minted OK Bears and they blew up, right? Rest is history. But in terms of their website, right, they were obviously looking at a Suki, since the Suki's website looks somewhat similar, at least in the style and the vibe, to OK Bears, and a Suki is one of the biggest ones on Ethereum, if you didn't know. So again, right, great website, looked like something that is previously really popular and did really well. That's what I talk about in my other videos as well. You want to look for the trends, the narratives, and sort of the branding and marketing narratives that popular projects and sold out projects are doing. And when you find early projects or new projects which are doing something similar but in their own style, there's a high likelihood that they would do well, right? Because people are getting smarter, and that's what people are looking for. You can see here they have their part. Everything is on brand in terms of their marketing message, their catchphrase, their emojis. Everybody's gonna be okay, or we're all gonna be okay, instead of we're all gonna make it. Whack me became Whackbo, right? They have their emojis, everything is just like, oh, it's gonna be okay, right? Something that people can relate to. It doesn't have to be, oh, moon, everything needs to go to the moon, It's like, it's gonna be okay, right? So it was sort of like a culture shift, just like they're right here. They're doxed on their website as well. At least they link to their Twitter, and obviously they had to dox themselves through Magic Eden. Their manifesto, it's about their catchphrase, their sort of brand narrative, what they stand for, right? Live in a life in a city, it's okay for me. Work for tomorrow, we all agree. It's a rhyme, it's just part of their whole brand. Their brand marketing and message was very subtle to some extent, but very thought through, right? The same for the blueprint. Instead of making an own roadmap, they had a visualization of the roadmap looking like a park with small chalk drawings of the different utilities that they're gonna have, and then they talk about the utilities. But even though their utilities that they're talking about in this roadmap is very, to some extent, vague, or not very thoroughly describe what those utilities will do or how they will work, it's rather just stated, but the visualization in terms of making it to a branded asset makes it seem very credible. It makes it seem very and highly thought through, right? So that was some of the things that they did really well. And just in general, if we go into their Discord, and now I'll scroll back to their previous announcements, right? They don't do many announcements. They're very short in the way that they write things, right? Just very simple messages and announcements, and letting the branded assets and the different things do the talking, right? That's basically it. Here they're talking about their different, obviously Whackbo, together we are okay, that they're, the emoji, all these different types of things, which is very curated and very simple, yet very effective, right? And other projects, that's obviously what you want to look for. Great branded assets, great brand marketing message, brand narrative. If they have a catchphrase, they're branded at their graphical elements that they're posting on Twitter, in their Discord, on their website. Does that look like something that could be a proper big brand in the Web 2 space? I know we're in Web 3, but could it look like a big corporate company, or a big corporate, cool Instagram company, or just in general, would it work in Web 2? Do they have great branding? And does it tie into some of the trends which are working right now, maybe on Ethereum, but obviously since a lot of ETH people coming to Solana, does it look like something that is hyped right now, or are they utilizing some different elements combined into one that they sort of added their own touch to? Then there's a high likelihood that that project will do well, right? I know I'm rambling a lot about these different things, right? And you should definitely go ahead and check out my other videos where I talk a lot about these elements as well, how you can do that research. But some projects that I also made another video, I'll link that up right up here, about Trippin' Apes and Trippy World and stuff like that. But another project that's doing that right now, that people are talking about becoming the next OK Bears possibly, right, is Trippin' Ape Tribe. Obviously, it's difficult to become the next OK Bears since OK Bears are so simple in their art, but still, these are gonna go nuts, right? And what they did well is that they have great branded assets. You can see here, rather than writing when they're minting, you know, as a normal announcement or just like a Photoshop image of it or something, they made it into a branded asset where it's not even that, you know, clear. You have to look obviously in the top right corner, but it's not big bold letters, right? But they're minting on the 24th of May, right? And very simple. The initiation ceremony is imminent, meaning May 24th, right? Very short and direct, straight to the point, right? And they have great branded asset as well. You can see here they have some lore story as well. I talked a lot about these already, right? 300K, that's a branded asset as well. Their website, I've looked at that one as well. So their website, you can see it's very on brand as well, right? It ties into their brand narrative. They have graphical elements, branded assets, wallpapers, sort of a visualization of the world where the Trippin' Apes are living in with this asset, you know, sort of laboratory and stuff like that. So it's very on brand, right? Great branded asset. And they've actually extended this from my previous video that I made. So this just looks really, really good, right? And there's a lot of hype around it because they're doing great branded assets and they have there's a huge amount of scarcity around being able to mint, and that was the same with OK Bears. If you want to see an example of a brand new project which just popped up before I made this video, is Dummies, right? You can see they have one example of their art, and then at the top their banner is a branded asset. It's a visualization of the world with these, you know, trippy dummies. You can see it's sort of trippy in a way, you know, it shows that art in an environment, in a setting, right? So those are some different examples. Here's another example of a new project which I just saw on Twitter as well the other day. Mutant Labs, what they're doing, they have, again, branded assets around it being mutation, the laboratory, sort of like all this acid stuff. Again here, somewhat of a cat, sort of mixing some different chemicals. Again here, it's a lab, it's a branded asset. Rather than showing the art right away, they're playing on the narrative about, you know, their branding and the world that they're living in, right? Mutation began. Again, that's the way that they're doing their brand marketing. They're sort of telling their lore, their background around the characters, the art that they're building in the branded assets that they're creating. So that was sort of like a breakdown of how you guys can find the next OK Bears. What you want to obviously do is you want to go on Twitter, and then you can go ahead and search for any interaction with this tweet will be considered for whitelist, or any interaction with this tweet will be considered for OG or stuff like that. And when you're searching on Twitter, go ahead and check out my other videos on my channel as well. I do talk about the different ways that you can do that research on Twitter. But anyway, what you actually want to look for is the branding, right? Early on, utilities were super important. That was the thing you wanted to look for in terms of a project even being able to sell out or not. Now, what the narrative is, the meta is that you want to look for these branded assets, a great brand marketing, brand narrative, you know, their catchphrases, the whole tonality that they're doing, like everything sort of needs to match together and feel like sort of like one unity, like there needs to be a cohesiveness between what they're posting and stuff like that. And when you see these scarce whitelist giveaways, or you know, the first 1,500 people to interact will be considered for whitelist or OG or whatever that it might be, go ahead and research those projects, make a folder. Point being is that when I find those, I have a folder on my Chrome browser where I have them, so I can look them up and try to research them and do more research and see how their branded marketing is. And when they release the website, what does their website look like? When they open up for their Discord, how many people are chatting in Discord? What's their announcements like? You know, stuff like that. You know, you just want to look for all those different elements and just do research. The more research you do, the better you'll become. So that was a quick breakdown of how OK pairs came to be, what they did right, why they did it, and how they did it, and how you can utilize that knowledge to find early projects that you can then go in and get whitelist for. I hope you enjoyed it. If you got anything useful out of it, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. It would really mean a lot. If you have some other projects you want me to take a look at, please put it in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.